Look around this classroom at Kanya Vedic Vidyalaya. Whether you are scrolling on the smartphones in your bags or watching a global space station dock in orbit, you are interacting with the exact same technology. We use these devices every single day for assignments, communication, and gaming. Yet most of us treat them like black boxes. We type a question in, the machine thinks for a second, and the answer pops out. But there is no magic inside the casing. A computer possesses no independent brain. It is simply a highly obedient electronic system that follows strict, uncompromising logic. Once you understand how that underlying logic actually works, you stop being a passive passenger of the technology you use. You become the driver. To understand the machine, think of it like a biological organism. The physical form is hardware, the boutique projet, like a monitor or processor you touch. The mind is software, invisible instructions giving the physical body its purpose. When you first assemble the plastic and metal chips, the machine is completely lifeless. It requires a primary program to wake it up. That is the operating system, like Windows or Android, which breathes logic into the dead components. Hardware without software is just an expensive paperweight. Software without hardware has absolutely nowhere to live. They are a perfectly codependent system. But a digital brain trapped inside a plastic box is useless if it cannot interact with our physical world. That is the job of input devices. These act as the machine's senses, its eyes, ears, and hands. They give you a way to feed raw data and specific instructions directly into the system. When you click a mouse or type on a keyboard, you give it hands to feel. When you scan a document, you give it eyes to read. Once the computer processes that raw data, it needs a way to talk back to you. It uses output devices as its voice. It delivers its results either as a soft copy displayed on your monitor or a hard copy handed to you by a printer. This entire loop is just a translation system. You provide the input, the computer processes the data, and it returns the output. Human intention is converted into machine action and returned as a human-readable result. We didn't arrive at this modern input-output loop overnight. The word computer originates from the Latin word computare, meaning to calculate. The machine was born from humanity's ancient need to solve mathematical problems. 3,000 years ago, people built the abacus. Sliding these wooden beads on a frame was the world's very first calculating device. Fast forward to the 1830s, Charles Babbage designed the first mechanical, programmable machine, earning him the title of the father of computers. The leap to electronic processing brought the ENIAC. This was the first major programmable electronic computer. It weighed 30 tons and required an entire room just to house its components. This first generation of computers relied on bulky glass vacuum tubes to process data. They were fragile and generated massive amounts of heat. The second generation replaced those tubes with tiny metal transistors. By shrinking the components, the machines instantly became faster and took up less space. In the third generation, engineers managed to print entire circuits of components onto a single piece of silicon. This was the integrated circuit, or IC, and it triggered the golden age of computing. By the fourth generation, they consolidated the processing power down to a single microprocessor. This is the exact piece of technology that allowed computers to move out of massive laboratories and onto your personal desk. This timeline includes a major milestone from right here in India. In 1991, Dr. Vijay P. Bhatkar and his team developed the Param 8000. It was India's first indigenous supercomputer, built entirely from the ground up. From 30-ton rooms of hot glass tubes to modern AI, the history of computing moves in one consistent direction. The physical footprint shrinks, while the processing capabilities expand exponentially. Whether you are using a digital laptop to crunch numbers, an analog speedometer to measure physical momentum, or a hybrid smartphone to scan your fingerprint, every machine relies on that exact same loop of input, process, and output. But the machine has a rigid limit. It can process billions of calculations a second. It has perfect memory. Its independent IQ is exactly 0. It possesses no feelings, no intuition, and no dreams. If you give it a flawed instruction, it will perfectly execute that flawed instruction. It requires human intention to be useful at all. The computer is an incredibly obedient tool, nothing more. The true supercomputer, the one that will direct this technology, create art, and lead India's next era of innovation, is sitting right there in your chair.
धन्यवाद दोस्तों। इस वीडियो को देखने के लिए आपका दिल से शुक्रिया। अगर आपको यह वीडियो पसंद आया हो तो कृपया इसे लाइक करें, शेयर करें और हमारे YouTube चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करना बिल्कुल न भूलें। आपका प्यार और समर्थन हमें ऐसे ही नए वीडियो बनाने की प्रेरणा देता है। फिर मिलेंगे एक और मज़ेदार वीडियो के साथ। तब तक के लिए नमस्कार।